Hey guys, it's your girl Kizzy Rock. Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday, guys. I hope you guys are enjoying your weekend. I want to say hey to all my subscribers, new as well as seasoned. I'm so blessed, grateful, and thankful to have you guys here. So guys, I want to jump right in. I want to talk to you guys today about, is it God or is it the enemy, right? Someone emailed me this last week sometime, and then I had someone to bring it up again, a different person to bring it up again this morning. So I figured since I had this conversation this morning, I would just kind of piggyback off what I was talking about this morning. So guys, it could be very confusing at times. Those voices can be very, very confusing at times. And I think people want to beat themselves up because they struggle with the fact, like, is it God or is it the enemy? Like, am I wrong? Am I bad for not believing in what God says and questioning what he said? No, you're not. And truth of the matter is, sometimes even your most mature believers struggle sometimes with voices. Maybe not as frequently as we do, us in our process, but it's okay to know that it's a process, right? So don't beat yourself up when you're struggling with whose voice was that. The most important thing you can do is to make sure you are tapped into, how do you hear from God? Again, we all hear from God differently. Some people, they're scripture led. They can read the Bible and they get downloads like, I don't know what. That is not your girl. I'm a visionary. I'm spirit led. So I can read the Bible and get nothing. What the Bible does for me, if I'm honest, it's so confusing at times, but what it does for me, if anything, it will give me certain confirmations on what was downloaded in my spirit, right? So I'm spirit led and I'm a visionary. If God shows it to me, it is. Where some people, other than just being a visionary or scripture led, some people have dreams. That's not me. I don't really dream a lot, if I'm honest. And even if I do, the minute I open my eyes, I completely forgot what the dream was about, right? So we all are different. So however you hear from God, don't let people tell you that you have to hear from God the same way they do, because it's so not true. And people are missing their blessings because they're not confident in their own downloads. And so they're going and asking friends and people that they think may be a little more spiritually inclined. And then when these people give you their answers and it doesn't reflect what you were told and the way you receive your downloads, before you know it, you walk away from something that truly is a blessing. So you have to be careful about asking people, especially if you're a visionary. Well, anybody, let me take that back. If God has given you something, you know without a doubt it was God. You know without a doubt it was God. Be very, very careful about going and asking others. No matter how much you respect that person, you got to understand it was given to you. It was given to you for a reason. And they may love you and want the best for you, but they can't grasp it like you did. So you can go with this supernatural download like, oh my goodness. And they're looking at you like, you just need to go sit down because it could never be. And before you know it, that stuff is in your spirit. Whatever God has given you, you got to hold on to that thing. You got to hold on to it for dear life. You have to also know that just because God has given you a word and yes, the blessing is yours, it's important to know that it doesn't mean it will come without opposition. So what happens sometimes is when that opposition comes, these storms and the delays and all that stuff, then we tend to think like, oh, it was never God, because God is not moving fast enough for us. Well, remember, timing is crucial, because timing sometimes is about exposing certain things within yourself that you need to work on, as well as eventually the certain things on the other side will be exposed to you so you can know how to prepare for it for when it does come. Because see, you can have a certain mindset on how you're going to handle it and how you're going to deal with it and how you're going to walk into it. And God's ways is not our ways. So sometimes that process will allow you to understand eventually, like, oh my goodness, it was really never about this. It's about that, right? So just because you're being met with resistance, it doesn't mean that is not from God. It's important to ask God to give you downloads on what that resistance is about. What is that delay about? And again, it will probably be, it could be something you're doing or something that you're refusing not to do, right? Maybe you've done everything, but again, you don't know what's going on that other side. So when we start getting impatient because we think we should have it, because I've been waiting 25 years, we start to go ahead of God, right? So then we start trying to make it happen. That's when you're going to meet a lot of resistance, because again, you're trying to force God's hand and the timing is not yet. So God is going to step away from it. He's going to walk away from it. So guess what? It's just you and your flesh. And flesh will never, ever conquer a spiritual battle. So that's why you're meeting that resistance. Take your hands off of it. Another way it can be very confusing is you may get a download to say, all right, go do this, right? And so God may have you doing something, moving in the flesh in a certain kind of way. And then again, you get paused. He tells you to pause. Well, because now you're paused, you're bored, right? So you also got exposure to the thing when he had you moving, and now he have you on pause. So Satan knows that. Satan knows you're impatient. Satan knows that you're tired of waiting. So he's going to start putting things in your head telling you, move, go do this, go do that. And you feel like, okay, that has to be God because God told me to move again. He's going to tell me to move again. Sometimes that's not God telling you to move. That's Satan telling you to move, because he knows if you move, you're going to ruin it. You're going to ruin it, and you can ruin it in so many ways. If it's not prepared and ready yet, if you go putting your hands into it, you're going to mess it up. You're going to get your feelings hurt. It's just not going. So here's the kicker. I was talking to, it was a guy. We were messaging back and forth on TikTok, and we were talking about the same conversation that we're talking about now. And he's stuck on that. I just don't understand, because faith without works is dead. It doesn't make any sense. And actually the conversation was about someone, and I actually agree with the guy who said this. He was speaking about manifesting, right? He was speaking about people are taking this word manifesting, and this is a whole nother topic. So if you guys don't agree with this, trust me, it's okay. Maybe we'll talk about this on another time. I'm just speaking from my point of view right now. But he was speaking about how people are getting that word manifested twisted and thinking that they are capable of manifesting things themselves. And then you had other people on there pretty much going back and forth and debating no, we are supposed to manifest things. And yes, God give us his power. And no, we need to be manifesting things. So I'm the person who's in the middle, you both are right. Because truth of the matter is, faith without works is dead. We can sit here and pray until our toenails fall off. If you're not moving your hand when you're getting your downloads, if you're not taking a step when God tells you to move, ding, 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 ding. Key point, when God tells you to move. See, people want to manifest their will. That's dangerous, because then you're on your own. The grace doesn't cover you. But once you tap into the will of God for your life, then you will get downloads from the Spirit telling you how to move in the flesh. That is when you're manifesting. That is when your feet and the things you're touching, you're then manifesting things because it's part of God's will and you're moving in order. But if it's not something that God has ordained for your life and you're just thinking, I'm going to manifest this marriage, I'm going to manifest this thing because I want it, then God is not in that. But when you know it's from God, that job, that house, that car, that school, that marriage, that purpose partner, whatever it may be, when you know it's from God, you will then start getting downloads telling you how to move in the flesh. And part of that will be attached to manifesting God's will for your life. So that's where the confusion can come in at. I think I got off topic just now. So you will know, I lost my train of thought, but either which way, you will know that it's not from God, right? When you're getting confused in those voices, if it feels, well, I'm going to take that back. I'm going to tell you why. Because I experienced that some years ago. I knew without a doubt I had heard from God. without a doubt, I had heard from God. And so I was telling a friend of mine who was much more spiritually inclined than I am, and I really, really admire her immensely. And I was telling her what I was feeling in my spirit. And then she said to me during the time, well, Kizzy, that's not God, because there's no anxiety, there's no rush in God. And so how I took that, and thank God, again, I'm a person who, I whatever God tells me, I stick with that. I don't let people shift that, only because I know how I hear from God. So how it came across, and pretty much what she was saying was, well, that thing that God showed you, that didn't come from God, because there's too much anxiety behind it. There's too much not even confusion, but anxiety, flesh, things like that. And truth of the matter is, that's not always true. Whatever God have shown you, that can be completely from God, but it's your flesh itself that has you wanting to get it before God's timing. So it's not that that's not from God. It's more about you tapping into the spirit to figure out, why are you full of anxiety? Are you trying to rush it before God's time? So you see the difference? It still can be from God, but it can be your flesh that's causing all that anxiety and all that confusion. And then you always hear, well, God's not of confusion. Well, you have to ask yourself, why is that going on? So if you're not full of the flesh and full of anxiety and things of that nature, then that's a different topic. But if you know that you're planted and you're patient and you're positioned to hear from God, but there's still all that confusion and all that other stuff going on, that's when you have to really question, like, I don't know about this one. But you got to be sure that your flesh is intact, and it's not your flesh that's causing all that rushing feeling, that anxiety, that stress, and all that other stuff. But when you're aligned and it's God's timing, it will be peaceful. It will flow like water. Again, it doesn't mean you won't have delays, because delays are not always about you. But it will be, things will just fall into place. There will be times where you're required to sit and things are quiet, and then boom, get up and move quick, get all done now, sit again. So it's a process, but we get so stressed out because we want to figure out, what is God doing while we're sitting? What is God doing in the quiet time? A lot of the times, the quiet time is not even about you. It's something on that other side. So if you're fighting with the voices, first and foremost, I hear a lot of people say this, that whatever it is, it should not contradict the word. Again, I'm no Bible scholar. So if you are getting to your word about that specific thing, that specific topic, that specific question, read your word on that and be sure that it's not contradicting it. For example, you may be, wanting God to bless you with a certain home, but you really can't afford it. So you done found somebody to rig up some check stubs. Listen, God not God not about to be a part of that nonsense, right? So that's how you know that's not from God. You sitting here, getting paychecks rigged up and things like that. That's how you know it contradicts the word. So that's one way how you can know. Again, for me, I always get confirmation, even when I feel like yesterday. Yesterday, I really felt like I heard a download from God, right? It felt that way. And then I struggled all day about, was that the enemy? Was that God? Was it? And I was confused for the most part of yesterday. And if I'm honest, when I woke up this morning, it still was like, I don't think it was God. And the reason why I felt that way is because I went back to the original word, the original download. Always go back to your original download. So hopefully you guys got great memories. Go back to the original download and remember what God said then and all the downloads that you had throughout the process. God is not going to change up the downloads on you. Satan will come in and try to change some things up and then throw you out to the wolves, knowing that you're just antsy. And so I always get confirmation. It seemed like it'll be hours later or even a day later. And this morning, I listened to I think it was Samuel Blake's, Bishop Samuel Blake's, confirmation clear as day that I did not hear from God on yesterday. That was Satan trying to be smart, trying to be sneaky, trying to get me to put my hand in something too soon that God had already been clear about, you don't go get it. It will find you. Speaking of that, that's another thing. Be very, very careful, because anything that God has for you, most times it will come to you. Now, God may have you do certain things or put you in certain environments or certain atmosphere, but God is not going to really have you breaking doors down. Now, there's a difference between determination and persistency and consistency and all that stuff. I'm talking about just going on in your own flesh, trying to make things happen, trying to break doors down, going ahead of God. Be very, very careful with that. And Satan can sit right there and try to make you think like that's something you have to do. That's not God. God will position you. And then once you get positioned, you'll get more downloads. So it's almost like a step-by-step process. So if you're feeling rushed about it, figure out where that anxiety is coming from. Make sure it's not you first. So I hope this helps someone. Again, if you guys have different ways that you distinguish your voices, maybe if you comment, maybe it can help that person even further, because again, I distinguish my voices in different ways. Again, I'm a visionary, so I get my downloads very clear. When my downloads come to me in the form of a vision, I don't question it. Sometimes, again, the flesh will make me impatient, so then I go and ask someone else other questions, and then I get the complete opposite of what God said to me, but I know how to filter that out. Everybody can't do that, and that's very, very scary if you don't know how to filter out someone else's opinion versus what God has told you. Then I stick to my original download, but yes, sometimes I have to go to people who is much more spiritually inclined than I am to get wisdom on certain things, not the download itself, on certain things. But the person I go to is the person who is ordained for that specific assignment. Because you can have a person in your life and they may not be able to tap into all the assignments. But the person who's aligned and they got the same downloads that you received, and you guys come together and it's nothing about confirmation. That's the person you kind of want to stick to in this season when you feel like you have to get some more opinions. Don't go bouncing around asking 5 and 10 different people. It will have you crazy when you're asking 10 people an opinion about a situation. It will have you crazy. Get quiet, get still, ask God, is the delay about you? What areas do you need to clean up and perfect and polish? Once you've done that and you feel like you've done everything you needed to do, he may just tell you to mind your business. Mind your business. He'll come back and get you when he's ready, not when you're ready. So you guys have a great one. It's your girl, Kizzy Rock.